Yo, good day, gents. Hopefully you're having a fantastic week. It's actually been a minute since I've taken a moment to visit with you. Been traveling like a mad dog. Went out to Louisville, Kentucky for the Southern Detailers Conference. Got to see a lot of my friends, fellow vendors, suppliers, future customers, new customers. I mean, it was a great time connecting with everybody and learning. Those events always take time to get my hands on something new. Actually, Onyx came in and they were doing a PPF training. And so I said, hey, I want to try that. And Bernice Berry, man, she is the bomb. She was teaching the class. And so I got my hands on PPF and I learned that, yeah, that's not something for me. And then this last weekend, my personal mentor, my coach, Sean Hart, he is the executive director of Involved Dad. And he invited me to come out to Orlando to hang out with him, where he presented at MOAA, which is the minority organization for athletic directors of the university. So all of these athletic directors come in for a 4 and 5 day training session on how to recruit kids, how to create a brand, how to create environment for these kids so that they'll thrive. It was amazing. And Sean was the keynote speaker. And his message really got me thinking, because he got very personal and he was sharing some experiences that he had, in particular with his dad, or as a young man, his lack of experience with his dad, and how he was really yearning for his dad's love, his approval, his respect. And Sean had big aspirations of playing not only college football, but also NFL. And he shared how when he was young, he started getting these letters from universities that were interested in him. And he was really excited because he got one from Notre Dame. And so he waited all day for his dad to come home, and was excited to share this letter that at least they were looking and considering inviting him to play. And his dad drove up in his big long caddy, and Sean's excited. And he goes down, he said, Dad, look. Well, I actually called him Nate because he didn't call him Dad. That's kind of the relationship they had. And he said, Nate, take a look. And his dad looked at the letter, looked at him, looked at the letter again. And he said, you're too small. And that just crushed his spirits. It crushed his self-esteem, and it made him feel like he was small, like he was too small, not only in the eyes of the university, but also in the eyes of his dad. And that kind of stuck with him. And after years of a strained relationship, Sean felt really driven to reconnect with his dad. And he has more of the story to share than I can, but long story short, over time they were able to reconnect, at least on a surface level. And one evening, Sean was at his place, and he was laying down, and his dad came and sat on the edge and just reached his hand back and put his hand on Sean's back. And in that moment, Sean knew that his dad was trying to say, I'm proud of you. I'm proud of who you've come. I have mad respect for you, and I love you. And I think a lot of men have had that experience where they have had dads that are not really connected. They haven't been involved in their life, and they're trying to figure out how to connect the dots. And there's a generation of men, as you guys know, that they were taught not to show emotion. They were not taught how to interact with their kids. You go provide, and that's what you do. That's the way you show love. And it's compounded when you have men and that were bad dads, that were out, gallivanting around, chasing the women, coming home and pretending to be in love with their wife, but still, chasing the ladies on the side and creating this legacy of a poor example for men. And I think about that experience that Sean had with his dad, about his dad reaching back and in his feeble attempt was trying to bridge the gap of years of pain and sorrow and disconnectedness that in some ways created a broken young man that became a broken man. And Sean has had to work through that. And he's got a new book called Broken Boys Become Broken Men. I can't wait to read it. He and I have actually been working on it a little bit and bouncing ideas back and forth. So look for that. But as I was thinking about his experience, I was thinking about an experience that I had with my own dad. And my dad was a Navy dad. Yes, sir. No, sir. Right? And my dad was very involved in my life and my family's life. And he was a great dad. But my dad also had a bit of a temper. And I remember one night, us kids, being kids, we were not at our best. And my dad lost it. And he lost it pretty, nobody was abused or anything, but man, he lost his cool and he was mad and he stormed out of the house and he was gone for hours. And, I kept, in my little kid heart, I'm sad, I'm crying, I'm wondering when my dad's gonna come home. I'm disappointed that I upset my father, disappointed that I caused the chaos in our family. And finally Mom said, boys, you know what, it's time to go to bed. So we gathered around, said prayers, and then Mom shuffled us off to bed. And probably about 30 minutes later, I'm laying there in my bed, I can't sleep, I'm thinking about what happened in the evening. My dad peeks through the door, opens the door, and he comes in and sits on the foot of my bed. And like Sean's dad, puts his hand on my leg. And seeing that I was awake, he said, son, he goes, I know you're not asleep, and I wonder if I could talk to you for a moment. And he said, tonight was not a great night for all of us. It especially wasn't a great night for me as your dad. And I just want you to know that I'm sorry for not being at my best tonight. That I allowed my anger, my frustration to get the better of me. And I want you to know that I'm sorry. And that I love you. And I may not do things perfectly, but I try to always be there and try to be a better dad for you. And I just want you to know that I was not at my best, and I'm sorry. Will you forgive me? And I want you to know that I love you. And I think about the power of that experience, that my dad had the courage, he had the humility to come in and extend an olive branch and extend a hand and a heart and a mind of forgiveness to a little boy that, yeah, I was a little boy and yeah, I was wrong, but I was growing, I was learning, and my dad recognized that he had to set the model for what a father needed to be and what I needed him to be. And I always appreciate that experience. And I think about the contrast between my dad and Sean's dad. Both were trying to connect in different ways, and both had different experiences, so they were able to bring in a different experience and a different connection with their children. And I watch Sean with his girls and his boy, and I tell you, man, he has become an amazing dad, and he is a man to be emulated. And I am so honored and blessed to not only call him my coach and my mentor, but to call him my friend, and most importantly, to call him my brother, because he and I have connected in so many ways. Both of us are driven to help you men become better fathers, to become better husbands, to become better men, because we know that the impact of a father ripples across generations, and it is extremely difficult to build out of being broken. It's difficult to try to figure out who you are, who you want to be, especially if you haven't had somebody to emulate and to model. And so some men, and you may be one of those, have been trying to figure out what you as a man, what you as a father, what you as a husband look like. And it can be challenging, but it requires you to be humble enough to look in the mirror, to look at your film, to evaluate where you are, and go, you know what, this is where I am. And yeah, maybe my past wasn't the best. Maybe I didn't have the best foundation, but I can build on what I have. And I can lean into those characteristics that I admire and I see in other men. And it really is a journey, right? I'm not the man I want to be, but I am pleased with who I am. And that has come through concerted effort of being dedicated day by day, moment by moment, week by week, doing the little things to improve my character, to make me a better father, to make me a better husband. Because in the end, guys, we have the power. We have the power to inspire, to lift, to direct, to lead, to guide, to be humble, to be taught. And man, when we have the vision of what we can do as a dad, and we recognize that what we're doing now, every day, compounds over time, and it leaves a legacy. It's interesting because now my kids are all 21 and above, and it's interesting to see who they've become. And in large part, it's because of the foundation that Jody and I gave them. But it's also they're taking their own personalities, their own gifts, and they're building and creating something new. But I think that the foundation that we gave them will serve them for a long time and give them something to build on. So men, what kind of foundation are you giving your kids? What kind of bridge are you extending to their heart, to their mind, to their soul? Because I can tell you, some of you men, you are the hope. You are the beacon. You are the foundation for your kids. And they're looking up to you and they're yearning for you to be the example for them to follow. So anyway, thank you guys for tapping in. As you guys know, we check in, or at least I try to check in every week. This one actually took a couple weeks, so forgive my lateness in getting to you guys, but I hope you guys have a fantastic day. We'll check you later right here on Father's Fire.